I sincerely apologize for misleading information about Carl Gustav, insinuating that he's inbred or he has dyslexia or any other physical imperfections. That was all just... Well, hello again, YouTube. It's Petey. I'm back with another episode of Story Time. It's going to be... it's not going to be a real long story. There is a helicopter. Oh, wait, no. Gee, that's the other Storytime video that This one has the King of Sweden. Okay, now, I know when you hear that, it sounds like, what is this guy on about? He's just making all of this up for YouTube AdSense dollars. I can assure you, I wish that was the case, but these stories are all torn directly from the page of my own demented life. So yeah, there's two other Storytime videos. I'll link in the description down in the doobly-doo. And if you want to check those out, the one is like 20 minutes. It's part 1 and part 2. It's called Storytime The Tower. Okay? And there is a helicopter in that story, and it's worth your time. I'm telling you, especially if you're the type of person who can tolerate longer videos, and you like to consume a lot of YouTube, and you do that while you work. I like to think that my content, you can put it on, and you, the ones where it's just me talking, you could just put that on, and you wouldn't even need to really necessarily look at my ugly face or the screen. Could be working. So anyway, 2 minutes in, not a whiff of the actual anything to the point. And again, I apologize for all the Peluchin videos. We're at 600 on the petition, and I'm not giving up. I'm going to be taking a little bit less time of that because it was taking 100% of my time, and it's too much for me to be able to handle it. What I learned is it's very difficult to get people to click on something that they don't want to or don't think to click on themselves, and that people are very quick to ignore that. When I guess I need a cuter cat. I need a kitty.
The baby kitten.
Pizza's not good enough. It's not cute enough. So, back to our story, and this one, shout out going to Clementine. I almost said his real name. It's my new internet friend, and that's the reason I'm making this video, is because we were talking on Facebook, and he mentioned something about him having royal blood. And this is the thing, in my family, my mom supposedly, or it might have been my dad, one of the two was like, supposedly, one of their relatives used to always be going on and on about how they were royal blood. Which was to me, because that's just if royal blood means you're a reptilian shapeshifter. So that's absolutely unlike the contents of Storytime with Petey. That is a complete fallacy. So we're going to begin our story in River Forest, Illinois, off of Madison Avenue, the Clark Station. Used to get robbed all the time. That's where I lived, in this house with my older brother and my dad and my mom, and my dad worked for Volvo. So we drove a Volvo, and he would get a new one. Like about every 6 months or 3 months in between there, we would get a new Volvo. So we always had a brand new car. It was really cool. I was really into Volvos because my dad was. He was the regional parts manager, which means every Volvo dealer, they have a parts department, and he was the boss of that guy that ran the parts department. So he traveled all the time. In the summer, we would go with him. So I grew up in hotels. In the summertime, we were always gone. We would come around that last corner, and you would see your house, and my heart would just sink. Because there's nothing like coming home. If you travel a lot, you know it sucks. So, yeah, it wasn't glamorous. It was like, we went with him because he didn't want to be lonely, and we tried to make it fun by snacking it up in the hotel, and watching Johnny Carson on the color television, and then of course using the pool and sightseeing in these towns. So I don't want to complain. I was privileged. I really was. I remember I lost my father when I was just 16. It was 9 days before my 16th birthday to skin cancer. So get those moles checked out. Story time plus the medical advice. It's not a commission. So, my channel just got banned for anti-Semitism. So, yeah, I'm kind of punch drunk here this morning. Anyway, yeah, it's 7 o'clock, 7:17 is what I just saw on the clock. It's my morning. So,
You didn't say PM.
PM, yeah. So, right. Well, growing up, Volvo thing. My dad went to Sweden, and he came back with a gift for me that was on the hood. On the hood, there was a little bubble thing, and it had two eyelets that would shoot windshield washer fluid out to the windshield. And he brought me that. It looked like a little guy. It had eyes on it. And he took one from the factory and gave it to me. And he told me it was a robotic. It was a transmitter, and it would watch me and tell me that he could see me when he was away, if I was being good or bad. And it was the coolest thing. Like, I don't know whatever happened to that. I obviously lost it. But there's one thing in my life that I wish I had, and it would be that. So, my mom had a brother and two sisters, and the brother lived in Boston. We never got to see them. My father didn't have siblings. He had one sibling. My grandma on my dad's side cheated on her husband and had my dad. So the other boy that she had, when he was like 5 years old or 6 years old, she took him to the train station with a little suitcase and said, "Hit the road, Jack." So that was my Uncle Harry, who he didn't like my dad. He didn't. My mom was trying to get them together, and it didn't really work out very well with Uncle Harry. So Uncle Dan was my mom's brother, moved from Boston to Rockford, Illinois, which is close to where I grew up on Madison Avenue by the Clark Station in Chicago. So, Rockford, Illinois is a Swedish town. When the Swedes first came to immigrated from America, that was the place that they all first settled. So it's an unbelievable Swedish town, Rockford, and it's horrible now. It's a ghetto. The economy is really bad there, but they're still out there. You know, like some of them. Like my uncle is still there. I think his wife, they separated, which is unheard of in my family. Everyone stays together. His one son still lives there, and his other two daughters got out. So, my one cousin moved to Atlanta to work for Turner Network. She was a bigwig on the TV station, the Turner Network, TNT channel. So, hi Erica. So, I ran into her at a Psychodots show, which, that's a great band. How come you don't have all of the Psychodots albums? I'm unfriending you. Anyway, we'll work on that, by the way. I find out through my mom, of course, my mom and dad, that the King of Sweden, Carl Gustaf III, is coming to visit America. This is 1970. And not only is he coming to visit America, he's going to drive a Volvo that is going to be like donated through Volvo of America, which was the office that my dad worked out of. So on this Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was nice out. The sun was shining. I was little, you know. I'm born like right around like Altamont is when I'm born. You know, like the Summer of Love, like right when that ended. Like right when it ended. That's my birthday, and it's kind of funny because my name is Leaf, which means in Swedish it means love, and that was the Summer of Love, and that was when I was born. My name comes from a Swedish saga. My folks, they met at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois, or Moline. Where is that? Iowa?
It's near Iowa. It's Rock Island.
Yeah. And they had a little chili dog place there that was terrible. My mom took me there for a treat. It was this horrible, hard, pink hot dog thing with this chili on it. Anyway, the field trip from this high school to college, they were going to Sweden. And my mom was a lot older. I think she was 9 years older than my father. My mom met my father there. Why that age difference thing was, and what was that all about? They were so many years apart.
She was not a student anymore, I think, when she got to the
Yes, yeah.
He was a student.
She had graduated. She was a teacher, my mom, and she just knew they were going, so that she went with them because she was. My mom was, she's still alive. My mom was a Phi Beta Kappa, which is like a smarty person. And she knew multiple languages and taught ancient history and French and Spanish. And what was her major that she taught? English?
Maybe she taught
English, yeah. She was an English teacher too. So, in high school. I used to think she taught college, but no, she was a high school teacher. She taught my brother.
No, her brother.
Her brother. The guy, Uncle, the guy from Boston, Dan. So, my folks met in Sweden and fell in love, and then they married and had 3 boys. And while my father was in Sweden, he read a saga, and that's in that saga, which is an old hand-me-down legend of folklore. There's 3 main characters: Erik, Leif, and Björn. In that saga, Erik was the king. Leif, that means love. So he was like this Romeo guy. And then Björn means bear. So he was a shapeshifter who would transform into a bear. Big bad dude. Bear claws and teeth. So, and a little cute tail. I guess there was some kind of plot to dethrone Erik, the king. And I don't know what I was doing. I was macking women. And Björn, my poor wife, I love you. Björn, Björn turned shapeshifted into a bear and defeated the coup, and then the kingdom lived happily ever. So that's how we got our names. And then, so we were born in America, but our parents would speak Swedish at the dinner table when they talked about adult things, like what our Christmas presents were. So I would try to figure out what Atari 2600, how do you translate that into Swedish, so I would know. Anyway, King Carl Gustaf was coming, and we went. I put on my best plaid little pants, and we went in the Volvo, and there was a bunch of Volvos. There was a whole line of them, and Gustaf was in there. Remember, he had a beard, and there was a bunch of people around him. You didn't really even get to see him. He didn't have a cape, he didn't have a cane, nothing. He just had a sport coat, didn't talk, and he walked real slow and kept his head up. And so that is true. If you're a king, you gotta walk slow. You can't be tripping, hit a rock or hit a crack in the concrete. You gotta keep your head up, but you gotta look down. Plus, there's 4 dudes flanking you, and a couple of them are in front, so they probably will like say like, "Sir, you know, like, well, there's a Heineken bottle. Let me get that out of the way for you." Anyway, this inbred, this guy, he's inbred. Like, in order to prolong their bloodline, they only like marry their cousin. And so he's there's so many generations of that. This guy's got some like physical stuff like really wrong with him. That's how you get to be king. Sleep with your cousin. So anyway, he had dyslexia, like really bad, and we went somewhere, and they gave him the they gave him the key to the city, you know, in Rockford probably. I remember going. I think we went to O'Hare International Airport, where we met him and his entourage. They got in the motorcade. We drove to Rockford, Illinois. We did the key ceremony, and then we went to this church, this little old Lutheran church that was the first church ever built, the first Lutheran church that was built by these Swedish settlers that had started the town of Rockford, Illinois. We got to have a church. Just knew people are going to be drinking too much unless we get a church on Sunday. We'll start drinking again on Sunday morning. You need that one day off. Clear the liver out, sing some songs, you know, a little reflection. It's good for you. So, and all you atheist people, I grew up in a church. Okay? I'm sorry you didn't. I don't go, but I'm going to tell stories about it. Don't kill the messenger. It's just a story. So, yeah, we go to the church. And I remember he went in, we followed him, and we were right up there with him at that point. We hadn't been very close to him, but that was when we were right by him. And they had a table with a bunch of gifts, like just trinkets, small stuff, and there was a guest book. So he went in and signed that guest book. We went in. He was the guest of honor. He went and sat in the front row. We were like, a little bit back in the middle of this little tiny church, and they did the sing song, did the thing, and then it was time for him to go. It was short, it wasn't long. I know the churches my mom used to take to, it was a little where they would get the snakes out. It was long. There would be like an hour and 45 minutes at least of the worship, which was awesome. The worship was always great, but then the guy would get up and talk. And depending on how full of himself that guy was, sometimes it would go over 2 hours of him talking. No air conditioner. This is just horrible. Always in some like warehouse or something, like no steeple. Like one of those charismatic churches that just started that everybody that got kicked out of all the other churches went to. So all the people had like really major issues, and then their kids were there that were like really screwed up kids. Those were the organizations that I grew up in. This was just a really nice little Lutheran church, and when we left, I don't think my folks signed the guest book, but they got him out of there. He like that, because that was the end of his responsibilities of the day, of the visit. I don't know what else he did. I don't know how long he stayed, but that was it for us. And he ski-daddled. He was gone. Old Karl Gustav III. He took off. So my folks went up to sign the thing because it was kind of rush. They didn't want to be like, oh, let's sign it when there's all these other people waiting to get in, but they wanted to sign it. Just because. And that when they went up there and signed it, they both took a look at his signature, and it was inverted. He had signed his name in reverse because he was so inbred. Story time with Petey. I hope that was as funny to you as it is to me, because it's really funny to me. And of course that's not true, but that's what my folks said. And as a kid, I believed that for many years until I reconsidered that there's no way that you would be. They would have been like, dude, like one of the bodyguards would have been like, no, we're ripping that out and you do it again, you know. But anyway, I do remember that the highlight of the story is coming quickly, I promise you. 20 minutes in, nothing has happened. They brought him over to the table and they said, you have to pick a gift. And they had all this trinkets and little crappy stuff for him to take in remembrance of his visit to the United States of America, because it was a big deal. There hadn't been a king of Sweden that came and visited the country, ever. This was the first time that a king came. So, he looked over it, and I think he took one little thing, probably like a pocket knife, letter opener, something, you know, with a screwdriver combo thing. Whatever he grabbed, I'm not sure. This is all just how my parents retold the story, because I really wasn't that focused on it at that point. But what I do know is that after he left and skedaddled, my folks stuck around long enough, and my dad stole this cup, which is the King's Cup. And it says, King Carl XXI USA. And it's got a donkey. There's a beast. There's a little guy. There's a little guy here. There's a circle. It's made out of. It's an ugly thing, and it needs to be buffed out. There's a little up here, like from all the dust sitting on it. I have drank out of this cup when I was a kid. I've drinking out of it. Kool-Aid, watermelon, and go right through the village.
Hey, Peaches, wanna be friends? Wanna be friends? Come on, Petey. Come on, Peaches, for you. Come on, Petey.
He doesn't want to be friends. And then on the bottom it says Bishop Hill Colony, and then Holdiai, HOLDEAI, Bishop Hill Colony. So this is unbelievably unprepared. I'm going to reshoot the entire thing. I'm going to Google that real quick, and we'll see what that is all about. Bishop Hill Colony. Bishop Hill Colony is a historic district in Bishop Hill, Illinois. Utopian religious community operated as a commune, founded in 1846 by a Swedish priest, Erik Jansen, and his followers. The community was named Bishop Hill after the parish Biskopskula in Uppland, Sweden, Sverige. Greek rival architecture, 150 acres, 1846. Bishop Hill Colony Store gift shop. So that's where it would have come from, was that gift shop there. They just had a kiln, and somebody was making these, and they slapped one together and engraved it for the king. So I don't know. I would be curious as to how many of these there are. If this is the only one that has that engraving, or if they made more than one. I'm guessing that they did make more than one, just in case it broke, but probably not more than a dozen. An addendum to this video: everything that I said about King Carl Gustaf was my parents' joke. He's not inbred. He's a wonderful leader. If you look into his track record, he's a beloved king.
with a sense of humor about himself. He wears these goofy hats. I'll put a link down in the description. So I just wanted to clarify that all that stuff about him being inbred, that was just my parents joking around. That's their sense of humor. I realized when I edited the movie, it came off like I was serious. No, he did not sign his name backwards in the registry book at the church. And please forgive me. I really was overwhelmed with feeling like, oh, what much of an a-hole move that was for me to make this video about this guy who's a good person and a wonderful leader, someone that the people of the country of Sweden, they love this guy, they look up to him. He's a great leader, he really is. So I sincerely apologize for misleading information about Carl Gustav, insinuating that he's inbred or he has dyslexia or any other physical imperfections. That was all just my parents' sense of humor. And I believed all that stuff for many years, and it kind of grated on me when I was editing the video. I'm like, I believed it, and then I realized that was all not true. It was just how they joked around. My folks just were kidding and retelling that story, but it wasn't true, and it was just them kidding. And I wasn't sharp enough to pick up on that, and then here I am doing the same thing, but to a potentially larger audience. So hopefully we put that dog to bed. My most prized possession, the CHRXVIU. Oh, Gustav.
Yeah, this is Carl XVI Gustav.
Ah, King Carl 16 Gustav. There we go. See, what behind every great man, behind every unbelievable lunkish turd of a human being. So yeah, that cracked that case. Now I've got a Swedish King of Sweden coffee mug collection. This is something from Javalia Cafe, by appointment to His Majesty King of Sweden. And it's got the royal coat suit on there. This it's a long story. This one came from the Infinity dealer that I worked at. It was a sister to Volvo dealer. German brothers, Horst and Gunther Corrales, opened this Volvo franchise. And they opened up a Honda and an Infinity dealer, Hyundai, multiple Infinity dealers. They're kind of a big deal family that runs these car dealerships, and my dad was friends with them. I worked there, my older brother worked there, his son worked there, my daughter worked there. And I worked in Volvo, Honda, and then later on Infinity. I was working on Infinity when I hurt my back. Some SUV tires I was running up and down the stairs. It was kind of a physically demanding job. But I was a lineman for about 4 years, working off a ladder. Did 18 aerial locations in one day, climbing telephone poles, cutting out the taps and amplifiers that run the CATV or AT&T system. And you can make some money in that, but I like 18 aerial locations, carrying your own ladder, humping that with fences. Go in, set the ladder up, climb up there, do your work, come down, carrying your ladder and then 30 pounds of tools all the way out of the yard, close the fence, go down to the next one, go all the way into the yard, set it up. So I had some physically demanding jobs, and then my back gave out when I was at Infinity because of this SUV tire promotion that they did where we were just totally swamped with an incredible number of tires. And it was 24 steps or 22 steps up to get to the second floor. So running those tires up and down, just carrying them, they're 100 pounds. Whatever I was doing, rolling or whatever, that's how I hurt my back. But they had, this mug was sitting on the counter and I would clean it. The counter guys kept their pens in it, and one day when I took everything out, it was all full of ink, and I looked at it. And it turned out, I asked, could I have this? I would replace it with another mug, V103 Power Jazz, or whatever mug that I brought in. And the guy didn't really want to give it to me, and then I told him a story about Carl Gustav mug, and he caved in. But he was a young guy, wore earbuds, listened to hip-hop and rock, kind of an open-minded younger guy. And he said that he was out with one of his buddies, and they saw a garage sale, and his buddy pulled in and went. And it turns out the guy who was throwing the garage sale was Paul Kurt, who was the Honda building parts manager who had gotten one of these and was selling it for $0.25 at his garage sale. So I got Paul Kurtz. He's a race car guy, races, and real interesting human being. Looks a lot like Donald Pleasance and has a tendency for people to hate on him. But yeah, great guy, Paul Kurt. I've got Paul Kurtz Swedish by appointment of His Majesty the King of Sweden. And then just recently, within the last year, we found another one of these. These sell for $10.99 plus $4.99 shipping new, but they go for $20 online. So it's kind of cool. This mug, however, you will not find this anywhere. This is a one-of-a-kind piece. There's none of them on sale on the internet. I looked today. So yeah, sorry for the length of this thing. Please be sure to check out the links in the description. Check out. There's information. There's all kinds of stuff about Wikipedia link for the visit. There's an interesting link about King Gustav's funny hats that he wears. There is links to the first 2 Storytime videos that are way better than this. Those are awesome. You got to check those out. The tower, the one with the helicopter in it. That's the police are involved in that as well as the helicopter. But and then of course, please don't forget to check in with my new pal Clementine, Oh Me Darling Studios, down there in somewhere in between Nashville and Muscle Shoals lies a small patch of land. Oh Me Darling Clementine, and you can get to know all about that if you click on that link. It's got some really interesting content, some music, and a lot of really cool DIY stuff. Basically, I ran across his video, and it sparked up a realization that, because immediately I was like on defensive, because like, what is this guy doing? It was like he had a different approach, and then I realized, and he's Southern, so he's got a thick accent, and I'm just like really kind of, and then I'm realizing like I'm having this reaction because this is exactly what I do. Like we are the same at heart. So just over the past week, I've been kind of contacting with him every day. We talk a little bit, and we're getting to be close friends, and I'm learning from him. So check out Clement if you like the hackish DIY kind of build stuff and don't really spend a lot of money while you're doing it. If that type of thing appeals for you, you got another guy who's younger and he's actually doing that type of work. Where I'm like just talking most of the time now, just flapping my gums, and it's a lot of work to do to make a video. The project is really a lot of work, and then they have to document it. And he's doing it. He's doing something I never did. He films himself doing the process and then edits it down from there, which is just genius. And that's something it never even I'm like, you can't do that, So oftentimes I find when I'm in conversation with him, he's looking at me like he's looking up to me, and I'm like, dude, I look up to you. So if you're watching this, Clementine, please understand that I sincerely just am really in awe of who you are and what you do, and don't look at it like I'm older than you or something, because that's not necessarily the case. We're all on a path, and that thing about when you know everything and your mind is closed, because most people are like that, especially my people, and that's a huge issue with me, because I know I'm like that. I know I am, and it makes me angry at myself. It makes me sick to my stomach. So hey, who wants some coffee? Watermelon or grape?